Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Nur Adila Zahra. I'm from English Department A class. Today in this video, I would like to present one of the article, and the title is The Utility of the Metacognitive Awareness Inventory for Teachers Among In-Service Teachers. And the authors of this journal, there is Heli Kallio, Kale Virta, Mane Kallio, Arja Virta, Finn Rudolph, and Joe Steinsenven. And source in this journal, there is from Journal of Education and Learning, Volume 6, number 4, 2017 years. And the publisher of this journal, published by Canadian Center of Science and Education. And yeah, this is my midterm test for my lecture, Mrs. Eva. Hello, Mrs. Eva. Hopefully you always healthy and happy. Amin. So without further ado, let's get started. Well, the excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on the screen, in this presentation, I would like to explain every single things in this PPT. For the first, you can see there is background study. On the second, there is review of related literature. On the third, there is theoretical framework. 4, research methodology. 5, result and findings. And the last, there is conclusion. So everyone, at first, I would like to give an explanation for background study. In the first point, there is improving of metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers. So everyone, it means the purpose of the present study is to explore the utility of the compressed version of the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers, or MAIT-18, among in-service teachers. So in this case, it's help to improving their awareness inventory for teachers among in-service teachers. That's why this article is dedicated for teachers to improve their skill and awareness. So everyone, the metacognition doesn't only work for the students, but it helps the teachers to improve their teaching skill. And on the second, there is teaching skill issue. I mean, some of teachers still lack of methods to teaching their students. That's why to achieve good learning outcomes, teachers should be know the methods that is very useful for their students. The utility of the measuring methods needs to be explored by some teachers to gain information for teaching skill issue. On the third, as you can see on the screen, getting know the utility of the MAT-18 among in-service teachers. So we should figure it out what the benefits are, the utility of the metacognitive awareness in front of teachers among for students and teachers. Metacognitive awareness enable person to plan, sequence, and monitor students' learning so that the improvements can be seen directly in performance. Therefore, the metacognitive awareness is one of the key elements needed in developing autonomy in learning and teaching. Likewise, for students, this is a new opportunity to develop their metacognitive regulation and the associated abilities. And these are skills, moreover, that are required both in work and lifelong learning. On the other side, the utility of MAIT for teachers, this means it's like supportive role in more learner-centered educational culture, which requires SRL or self-regulated learning skills from students. And the last, in background study, there is helping students to improve their learning. I mean, however, the teacher should be able to support students to improve their learning, to achieve good learning outcomes, and then students should be able to regulate their learning within different subject areas. This kind of setting requires a revision of the teacher's role, and of course, as I told you earlier. The teacher should be able to support students. However, the metacognitive awareness have to support their students in the demanding process of growth. Next, there is review of related literature. According to Balchikanli 2011, the purpose of the present study is to examine the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers, MAIT, among in-service teachers. Teachers' metacognitive awareness is explored with inventories to a limited extent. For example, the MIT has been used in assessing students teachers in assessing student teachers only. So in the present study, the utility of the inventory was examined by calculating internal consistency and the fit of the factor structure. Mentioned first related to reliability, and the later one points to validity of the instrument. Moreover, the utility of the instrument was improved by compressing the original 24-item version into 18-item version, or we can call that MAIT 18. As I told you previously, to achieve good learning outcomes, students should be able to regulate their learning within different subject areas. And of course, for the teachers should be able to support students to improve their learning. Having looked at Fosniadu 1994, metacognition is an important factor in the regulation of one's own observation, memorizing, and use of language processed. And then, meanwhile, Fosniadu 1994 has found that metacognition is an important factor in learning new concepts and transforming old ones. And meanwhile, according to Metcalf and Shimamura 1994, as I told you earlier, metacognition is an important factor in the regulation of one's own observation. I mean, it is important part of problem solving by experts in learning to learn teachers metacognitive awareness in vocational education, which is still have small extents. Whereas Marathon and Booth 1997 has described the term awareness as a phenomenon which manifests itself in variation the ways in which people experience situation and phenomena in their lives and worlds. So I think in this study, the concept of awareness is described as a personal to understanding and specifying conscious thinking of one's own teaching. And the next, there is theoretical framework. So in this theoretical framework, I divided into 4 points. On the first point, there is metacognitive awareness. On the second, there is issue of assessment. The third, there is the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers. And the last, in theoretical framework, there is self-regulated learning, or SLR. In the first place, there is metacognitive awareness. According to Strow and Denison, 1994, metacognitive awareness enables person to plan, sequence, and monitor his or her learning so that the improvements can be seen directly in performance. I mean, metacognition refers to the ability to understand one's learning, basically awareness, and awareness as a phenomenon which is manifest itself in variation, the ways in which people experience situation and phenomenon in their lives and worlds. Therefore, the metacognitive awareness, as I told you earlier, is one of the key elements needed in developing autonomy in learning and teaching. On the second, there is issue assessment. Well, everyone, one way to assess metacognitive awareness is to ask a person to complete a self-report questionnaire. To study metacognitive awareness, there are several inventories, and they are used for that purpose. According to Winnie and Jamison, 2002. Note that the report itself doesn't necessarily specific exactly what student specify exactly what students are doing while they are studying. For the example, in self-direction, the self-report questionnaire points out the readings of the students, but not necessarily the ability. Knowing the limitation is crucial. I think it may be difficult to engage in scientific reasoning when one is not understanding the theory in it. And however, a validated and structured questionnaire has got so many benefits. Next, on the third, there is the metacognitive awareness inventory for teacher. According to Balchikanli 2011, the metacognitive awareness inventory for teacher is based on a self-regulated learning theory, and it is derived from the metacognitive awareness inventory for adults. Actually, metacognitive doesn't only work for the students, but it helps the teachers to improve their teaching skill. And there are several studies and inventories focused on students' metacognition, but only few taking account to teachers' metacognitive awareness, or even less students where in-service teachers were examined. And it is highly important for teachers themselves to be able to see their own level of awareness in metacognitive knowledge and regulation. Meanwhile, according to Balchikanli 2011, it is strongly believed that knowing what teachers know about their teaching should be a changing point for teachers' development. However, the MIT inventory is considered to be a resource that helps teachers realize their metacognitive levels of teaching. And the last, there is self-regulated learning, or we can call this SLR. Bandura 1977 defines self-regulation as the ability to control our own behavior. Anyway, everyone, the concept of metacognition would be incomplete without consideration of self-regulated learning itself, or SRL. So self-regulated learning theory have been described the relationship between cognition and metacognition, and one of the primary goals of education is to foster learners. On the other hand, self-regulation as the ability to control our own behavior. According to Bransford, Brown, and Cooking 2000, Tanner 2012, therefore, in order to improve learning results, the support given by teachers in self-regulated learning to students must be considered one of the main tasks for teacher. However, teachers also need to know their own abilities in this area first in order to be able to help their students. And then, of course, to improve their skills in self-regulated learning. And this case, teachers should understand the principle about how students learn, and they should be aware of their own metacognitive abilities. On the next slide, we're gonna talking about the research methodology on this journal or on this study. As you can see on the screen, this study takes three methods. There are, for the first, there is quantitative method. And then the participants in this study were teachers from 3 training consortiums providing vocational education. So the training consortiums committed to research project consists of 13 units altogether, approximately 450 teachers, while the student count for each unit was between 315 to 600 students. And as you can see, there are, as you can see on the screen, there are 208 participants, which is 47% of these participants were men and 53% were women. And admittedly, the participants in this study were teachers from different sectors of vocational education, such as business economics, social and health, tourism, etc. So the data was collected in 2015 and in the spring of 2016, under agreement with the boards of the participating training consortiums, all teachers participated in the study voluntarily. And as you can see on the screen, on the second methodology, there is measures. So this research project using a 3-step procedure. At first, there is 3 researchers, all native Finnish speaker, made their own version of each item. So in the inventory, and the versions were combined. Furthermore, the items were checked by a Finnish mother tongue lecturer. And on the second step, there is the new Finnish questionnaire was translated into English. So by an experienced the translator, to ensure that the concepts and phrases are translatable both from English and Finnish, and it's like vice versa, I think. And the final version was the result of certain modification and suggestion made by the translators and mother tongue lecturers. And on the 3rd step, or the last step, there is of the procedure was to test in the inventory questionnaire using a group of teachers in a secondary vocational institute. So the teachers were presented with the research project similar to that used when the main data was collected later. And the third of this methodology, this study is using data analysis. As you can see on the screen, the analysis of the data took place in 2 steps following the research question. For the first, the internal consistency and the fit of factor structure of the inventory was explored. So the consistency of the factor structure was explored using cross tabulation and calculating the Pearson's correlation between the items, and between the items that each other is like related each other's, I mean. On the next slide, there is a result. So in this result, there is I think there is 2 steps. Yeah, there is 2 steps. For the first step, there is internal consistency. So the analysis of the internal consistency of the components and entire questionnaire was found good, even excellent, within the first 2 consortiums. So the result in this step, the analysis of the internal consistency of the components and entire questionnaire, it's found good and excellent. Meanwhile, on the second, there is confirmatory factory analysis and the fit of the factor structure. So in this step, the questionnaire consists of 2 patterns of factors, revealing 2 underlying theoretical structures of metacognition. The both theories are operationalized in 3 factors. Subsequently, the factor patterns were analyzed using confirmatory factor analysis, and as a result, as you can see, alpha scores of the inventory signify that the inventory is internally consistent. Next, we're gonna talking about findings. Well, everyone, now we move to findings. We can find that this research revealed the utility of the MAIT-18 in measuring the metacognitive awareness of in-service teachers. As I told you previously, because the utility of the inventory has been examined among in-service teachers, comparative studies between service teachers and teacher trainees. As you can see on the screen, findings on this study, one of is to point out the utility of the inventory in Finland in vocational education particularly, and then of course it can be the confirmatory factor analysis indicated was good and acceptable model fit and coverage of each factor. We move on the next slide. Okay. On the last slide on this PPT, there is a conclusion. Finally, everyone, we are at the end of the discussion in the last place on this presentation. There is conclusion, of course. So in this conclusion, we'll inform you what we got or what benefit that you got from the utility of the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers among in-service teachers. Actually, what we got from, actually there's a question. It's like what we got from metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers among in-service teachers study. As you can see on the screen, one of is to explore. Yes, the benefit one of is to explore the utility of the compressed version of the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers among in-service teachers. And also this study, I think, is to point out the utility of the metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers to be able to help their students to learn, improve their skill in self-regulated learning or SRL. On the other hand, the benefit on this study can support their students in the demanding process of growth. So the point is, as you can see on the screen, the benefit that we got from this research, I think it's like, you know, the point is that the teacher need knowledge about the metacognitive awareness. How do they can reflect themselves? Where should they pay attention? And what should they develop about? In contrast, students need knowledge and skills of self-regulation when aiming for success in learning outcomes, further studies, and employment. However, I think teachers need to know their own abilities in this area to be able and of course to help their students to learn, improving their skill in self-regulated learning. And definitely I think teacher education could be improved by focusing on monitoring and developing the trainee students in metacognitive awareness. And also the benefits that you got, it's like as I told you earlier, could be improved your teaching skill and help your students to improve their skill in self-regulated learning. And last, for developing the trained students in metacognitive awareness, and also by promoting them in encouraging the self-regulation of learners. So everyone, that's it. That's about metacognitive awareness inventory for teachers and students. I think so many benefits that we got from this research. I hope we will get many advantages in this research, in this article that I told you. So thank you for your attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.